All right, cameras are rolling. So you can talk about whatever you want. Okay, we can talk about that. Stupid thing. I think you've got the better arm over there. Every time I move this thing comes unwound.
You've never seen me throw a baseball. It really sucks. I can't. It's like throwing a football overhanded. Ever since I damaged my shoulder, I can't do that. I got to throw it underhanded.
What's the submarine pitchers?
Yeah, I guess.
Throw them underhand. Submarine pitchers. Here we go.
Now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright, and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the award-winning #1 podcast to create sound of horses from the ground up. Well, Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. On this week's show, Mike returns from the International Healthcare Summit. He'll get into all the details on that. Also talking terminology. We're going to talk about tendinopathy and any condition that affects the tendon. Also, the way the tendon connects to muscle bones and tendonitis as well. All this and much more we'll discuss here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, and you're looking very well. You look a little frazzled. Did you have a good time at the?
I did. I had a wonderful trip and met some new friends and made some new friends and met some old friends.
And lost some old
friends and yeah, the whole bit.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit.
And I was wondering what kind of shape you're in because you're saying I was looking good. So yeah, what have you been doing this morning?
Well, we'll get into all those details a little bit later. As far as what I've been doing, I am just getting over just a small little cold. So if you hear a little bit of raspiness in my voice, I apologize. So I took the test. Everything's fine. I'm not the COVID. I don't have anything like that. I just had a nasal, what is it called? Sinus infection. Yeah. I was blowing some stuff out of the garage and stuff, and something got me good up there and hung around and made my nose. You
had a new friend.
I did. I didn't like it. Now I passed it on to my wife.
Sharing is always good.
Well, speaking of sharing, I'm going to share to you we've had all this cold weather and stuff, and down here and we broadcast just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town we like to call Marshville, and we've had temperatures down to 18 degrees, which is it's. I don't want to say normal for this year, but it does happen this time of year here in North Carolina. People think North Carolina, they think snow and mountains. Well, where we're at, we get a lot of cold. That's about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, apparently in Kansas City that morning, I flew in there. They had like a negative 16.
Oh, jeez. God, I can't even think of anything around the negative numbers.
It was fun. So actually, I just got to a vehicle, got to the building, and I was good.
Mike was VIP.
I was a VIP.
No flash photography, please. Anyway, so we had 2 days where the temperature didn't get above 32 degrees, and unfortunately, our wash rack down at the barn, everything's covered. I've got this nice little box that goes around the pipe that goes all the way across the top of the barn and goes all the way down the wall, all the way to the spigots for the wash rack.
Right.
Guess where it split? Right at the spigots.
Yes.
I was pissed. I was like, doggone it. So I've got to replace those as soon as the temperature warms up about a good constant above 35. So.
Right.
So that's what I've been dealing with. So what have you been dealing with? What have you seen outside of your trip to Kansas City, Mike? You were talking about you were watching someone the other day right before you left to go to the horse summit.
Right. I had a person that I work for was tacking up the horse. I never watched him tack up the horse. I mean, I was working. I took a look, and kind of left me shaking my head a little bit.
Why? What were they doing wrong? Was a saddle underneath the horse or something?
Well, no, it wasn't underneath the horse, but I know they've been working with a saddle fitter, but the saddle placement was we're trying to put as far to the neck as we can, which brings the girth right behind the elbows, and you're limiting rotation to elbows. And getting this horse moving has been a bit of a challenge on my end. And usually when I'm looking at the horse, it's trotting out with no tack on it, but restricting movement. And then the other thing, there was I'm going to call it a collar. It wasn't exactly a breastplate, but a collar that went around the horse's neck. And it had a handle that's set up off the neck about 6 inches.
What kind of handle?
A monkey strap, I call them.
Okay. Is that where? Is it because that's where a monkey would sit at one time, like back in the day, or is it?
Well, you know, the circus when they had the monkeys riding the horses galloping, they had a little strap up there and they locked in, hung on it.
Okay.
And then, of course, my first thought is, if they're riding, saddle shifted forward, and
it would hit the monkey strap.
Well, no, it wasn't hitting the monkey strap, but because there was a monkey strap there, and then I'm looking at the person's security level, are they going to be hovering over the monkey strap to make sure that they don't fall off, which closes their body down, you know, head's aimed down, shoulders are up or rolled in, back's humped forward, the legs are not in the right position, and then we are having some issues getting this horse moving as freely as it should. And as we've always talked, anything that shuts down the shoulders will drop the horse's back. It'll stop the hind end from coming under. And if the rider's in a bad position, the horse will be in a bad position.
Now, have you had other clients that you work with their horses and stuff? Do they have this monkey strap as well, or is this the only person that you saw?
This is a new one to me.
Okay.
I know they're out there. I know that.
What's the main purpose for the monkey strap, as you call it?
On your Australian stock, you know, like stock saddles, stuff like that. They have what they might call a night latch, would be looped around the cantle for an emergency handle. Which I'm not opposed to that in need be, but also, you know, back when I was working with Western horse, I've seen people that were so worried about getting a hold of the saddle horn, they couldn't relax and straighten themselves out and get where they could ride. And I was like, you know, I'd like to take a hacksaw to cut that saddle horn off. That's, oh, you have to have it to ride. No, you don't. You have to sit in the center of the horse and open your body up and give the horse enough freedom to move. And that's what my concern was with the monkey strap. So
you thought this was, is this to, I guess what I'm saying is the monkey strap to help the rider or to help the horse? And you're saying that
it's a safety device.
Oh, it's a safety device. Okay, that's all it is. Okay.
But then the question is, do we get too dependent on the safety device to allow ourselves to ride?
Like pull the ripcord or something.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was talking to another client. So that's the new thing is the companies are coming out with all these new safety devices so everybody can have the safety device and all that. But if they're leaning over the safety device, it gets in the way of them learning to balance and move with their horse.
So it doesn't help.
So in the wrong context, if the person is more concerned about the safety device than getting in the center of the horse, how is that helping us out as far as getting the horse moving?
So how long is this? I mean, if this was a new rider, even if I was on the horse, I would want some kind of, you know what, if worst case scenario, I need to grab something, I need to be feel secure on there.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not against people being safe on a horse.
Right. But I'm saying, like, for me, I'm a total inexperienced rider.
Right.
I would want something on there because I'd be like, you know, Travis the shaky legs up there.
Well, we also wouldn't have you trying to do second or third level dressage either.
Oh, okay. No, you would not.
Right.
I'd walk out to the food trough and walk back.
And that would be appropriate for that situation as long as need be. But if you're working towards climbing the ranks in the dressage arena, if that's your goal and you've been riding a long time, and we're adding just apparently fairly recently adding these things on, what's really happening with the riding skills, and then what's happening with the movement pattern of the horse, and why are we having problems? And I was speaking to someone who works with the trainer, and they said, you know, have you seen the trainer on the horse? I said, actually, I see the horse in hand. I see the horse on the lunge. Typically, when I come in to see us, that's where we see him real quick, right?
Uh-huh.
And the horse is stiff. The back is rigid. The back is tense. And I want to say that she's really like collapsing in the back too bad, but it's very rigid and tension doesn't move freely. But this, when the trainer rides the horse, said the mare can open up and move really nice. But the problem is longevity, keeping the horse sound. A. B, keeping the horse moving free enough to be effective at the job.
And that, you know, and not, I guess, relying on that.
Yeah. And, I mean, with you, we'd put 5 seat belts on you, full 5-way harness.
I would have a life preserver around my neck. That's what I would
have. Life preserver. We'd have a big D ring in the back of the 5-point harness so we could hook you up to something.
Right. You have to follow me around with a side-by-side with a big
boom hanging over top of you.
Yeah, like Tom Cruise and stuff.
Right.
Or how they used to put the knights on the horses back in the day.
Exactly. We just have a rolling rig like that with you. That way, if the horse shot out from under, you'd be going along with the rolling rig.
Wee.
You could pretend like you're Superman.
Could be. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to our very own Superman about what he went to this past week. He went to the International Horse Care Summit.
Hoof
Care Summit. And
these things.
Yes, and we're going to talk about all the stuff that Mike Stine learned while he was over there. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you'd like to join the podcast, you can do that now. The way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says join the podcast. You'll click on that, opens up another screen, another menu. You can see all the past different episodes that we've had over the last 3 years of doing this show. So if you've missed any of the shows, you can go back and check them out over there. And if you'd like to comment on the shows or ask Mike a question, your voice, your physical voice, will come right into our inbox and we'll play it on the very next podcast. We broadcast every every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town we like to call Marshville. So get your voice in, get your message in, and we'll play it on this very next podcast as well. And over to my far hand side, my very own podcast narrator is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Doing all right. So you went on your big trip to Kansas City.
Kansas City, yes, I did.
No, you missed that. Kansas, because we were talking about the geographic stuff. It's in Missouri. Did you figure out where Kansas City was, Mike?
Not yet.
No? You just showed up and they pointed you in the direction.
You go this way.
Kicked you in the butt.
Yeah, exactly.
Kicked you in the butt and go.
I think I got on the right plane.
So how was your flight? How was everything? And tell us the first thing you did as soon as you hit terra firma at the horse show or the Hoof Care Summit. What did you do?
I walked into the motel.
Da-na-na-na-na.
And I went to the desk.
Da-na-na-na-na.
And I started to
I think we got a song there, Mike. Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, you'll love this one. I checked in the motel, and I started digging through my stuff. I had my driver's license in Charlotte going through TSA, correct?
Okay.
I learned something coming back home.
What?
I never saw my driver's license again. I called TSA and said, well, I probably got lost in the bin at when you're going through security. So, normally you go to the airport 2 hours in advance.
Right.
They told me to get there in 3. They couldn't.
They know that you were that slow, Mike.
They know I'm that slow. Correct. So I went to TSA, and they said they would put me with a supervisor. And the supervisor walked me off to the side and got on the phone and filled out forms and all this stuff and called a government number and gave me a series of quiz questions.
Did you get Trump involved?
Did not get Trump involved. No. But
seems like this would be something he could handle.
It's amazing. Don't think the government doesn't know anything in the world about you. This is a government number, and we'll look up, and you better answer all these questions.
Sure,
right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
So then they escorted me. I had an escort into the airport.
Oh, all right.
They escorted me to security. I went through everything like everyone. Then I got walked off to the side, and I got the pat down, and I got the bomb sniffer. And after all my luggage went through, it got off to the side, took my hat. They bomb sniffed my hat. They opened up everything, every compartment, bomb sniffed everything, put the little tag in the thing. And in an hour and a half, I was checked through security. And apparently I wasn't carrying a bomb. But they can get you through if you have something happen with that. And they're like, well, do you have a passport? Not with me. I wasn't traveling international, so there wasn't any need for me to have a passport not traveling international.
How do you know you weren't traveling internationally, Mike? You didn't even know where Kansas City was. It could have been Kansas City, Guam.
Because...
Yeah, exactly.
Because...
Explain that.
Because, when I used to drive some larger trucks, I traveled international some because some of them were international trucks.
Right.
But that's a different story. But...
So you lost your ID. Is that what you're saying?
My ID.
You lost your ID.
Had everything else. It was out of my wallet. I was pretty positive it was back in. And somewhere between Charlotte and the motel, we parted ways.
So when you got to the Hoof Care Summit and you walked through the main doors and it said, "Welcome, Mike Stine. Thank you for showing up." And balloons.
They had an orchestra playing. They had the whole bit, yes.
Hail to the chief as you walked through the doors. And so
I have something. Oh, geez, he came again. You know?
You saw money exchanging hands like they were betting on you showing up or
Right?
something.
Yeah.
So when you got there, what did you learn? What was the big thing that happened? What was the first thing that you approached?
Well, went to a number of lectures, and one of the lectures I was looking at, they were talking about vascular material within, like, the deep flexor tendon in particular, which we're going to talk about later, and how that related to where the horse had been as far as bone column alignment and the PA. Horses that have been running the negative PA, putting a lot of stress on the deep flexor tendon, you don't see as much vascular material in that deep flexor tendon as you would one where the horse had been in, the palmar alignment had been in really good condition, and some of it was due to mechanical stress, micro tear, scarring, and all this sort of deal.
So is there anything that you learned? When was the last time you went to the Hoof Care Summit? Last year?
Last year.
Okay. So between last year and this year, has anything changed as far as like, hey, remember last year we said it's bad to do this? No, it's good to do this now.
Well, there's always things changing, and some of the materials are changing. People are coming up with new things constantly, and it's just changed a lot. And looking back at my career horseshoeing.
Mm-hmm. Which spans how long? Just to remember.
2 weeks.
Just to remind the people that
2 weeks.
that are just getting onto the show here.
I'm bumping right at 40 years.
40 years, okay. So since you've been starting.
You had keg shoes that were a generic pattern. Then we started getting pre-clip shoes and front and hind pattern shoes. And later on, actually, I think the pre-clip shoes came after the front and hind pattern shoes. But you bought a generic shoe and you always shaped it from sort of an in-between. They called it a keg shoe. And I think the original deal was they bought it in a keg. We used to buy horseshoeing nails by the pound, and instead of by the 100 count or whatever. And when they started counting them by the 100, this is a special deal. You'll notice the price went up. Of course, every time the price goes up, and there's so many versions of frog support pads and clogs and all out there, and I remember a discussion I had with someone a long time ago that was out in California, and they were talking about pads and what all. And, to get a frog support pad, they were available and usable, but you took existing stuff and you cut parts and you pieced it together, and, you cut a part of another pad that was fairly rigid, and you anchored it to the pad that was going on the foot, and you could do it on top or bottom, and you riveted a frog support to it, and they worked well, but then after a while it's like people said there is use for that, and so they started manufacturing them. The catch on some of that is we had to figure out how to do things. I had a farrier call me a while back, was talking about a particular shoe that was built with a rolled toe, and the rolled toe shifted to the outside. Well, they quit making the larger ones. He said, what do we do? I said, what do you mean, what do we do? Well, I think it's talking about the equilibrium shoe in particular. He said, well, you can't get the big sizes anymore. I'm like, well, you got shoes that'll work on the horse, right? Well, what do we do about that? I said, have you got a forge? Yes. Have you got a hammer? Yes. Well, there you go. Well, what do you mean?
Knock it out.
Forge the roll into the shoe. I do it all the time.
And these are conversations that you were having during the summit.
No, this was not at the summit, but this was just through the course of time. But the neat thing is, it's like aluminum shoes. When we first started doing the aluminum shoes, it was a very basic aluminum shoe. Now they got wedge shoes. Now they got rockers. Now they got rails. Now they got, and the list goes on. And with the plastic shoes, the urethanes, all that stuff, that didn't exist. And little by little, people were trying different things. The quick poly's come and gone. The level has come and gone. It was a grit that you glued to the foot, the built-in foot, and there's so many companies that have come up with a great innovative idea. Some have stuck, some of them have disappeared. But now people are laser printing specialty pads. People are laser printing shoes that are, different styles of clogs.
Well, not only that, the model that you're going to have, and if you're not watching us on YouTube,
this is laser printed.
Mike has a laser printed of the bottom lower half of a horse's leg and hoof, and those are being laser printed now. As to where before, if you look behind Mike, when I switch cameras here, he's actually got a bone.
We got a bone column,
and everything. That's actual bones. It's a skeleton,
right?
And we call her Peggy, and she's in the back there. But yeah, just the materials and stuff.
But it used to be you had to develop the skills to build something.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is some of that's being lost. And the other thing is when you go out and do a horse, if you're building something, there's nothing exactly the same from horse to horse. And the stuff that's all pre-made, it's like we have a generic pattern for a foot. We have a few variations on it, but if it doesn't go into this, what do we do? Well, for me, you made it work for that situation. You built it. You did whatever you needed to do. So that's one of the thing that concerns me a bit. And we were talking with Bob Smith about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I also spoke to Bob and Amanda, who we spoke to, or we're talking about.
All been on the show.
And had some good talks with them, and number of good people caught up with. But all the stuff being built.
Are farriers losing their art form?
That's the concern. Is it losing the art form? Is it losing the thinking?
And I don't want to call it an art form because when you think
it is an art form.
It is. Well, I think art form like cursive writing. Cursive writing is an art form.
Yes,
making homemade bread's an art form. I guess shoes. Forging shoes and making them work is an art form in itself.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm not saying people should make shoes all the time, but are we losing some of our creativity in the field and our thinking in the field, and where we're going with that? That's where's the future going with this? If it's not pre-ordered in a box, can we do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're
going to lose a lot of horses that way too.
You will, I think. But on the other thing, yes, there are a lot of things that are made easier because of it, because it's pre-made. But
is it better? We don't know yet. It's still new.
We don't know yet. We're still figuring it out.
All right, guys. Well, stick around. When we come back, we're going to dive into a little bit more of what Mike learned when he was at the International Healthcare Summit. And we're also going to talk terminology. We're going to talk about tendinopathy. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Sorry, I had to pull you back in on topic there, Mike.
No problem.
We got a little...
Chasing rabbits.
Mm-hmm. You ready?
Yes.
Oh, take your time. Here we go.
Off and running.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we also have a YouTube video channel. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on... What are you doing?
I'm knocking stuff over under there. Apparently, something bumped over.
You can see Mike over there driving me crazy with kicking things underneath the desk here. So you can see all that. Go to YouTube, search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Give him a subscribe over there. Mike's slowly creeping up on 2,000 subscribers, and you can be the one that pushes him over that 2,000.
I'm just slowly creeping.
2,000 subscription mark. And over to my far hand side, knocking things over, Wreck-It Ralph over there. That's Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Doing all right. So you said last week that Jeff Coda,
right,
was he was on the show. He was from the American Farriers Journal, which was one of the main sponsors of the International Healthcare Summit.
They organize this thing. It's a beast of a thing for them to do.
And he asked you to do a couple speakeasies at the show, couple sit down table things,
round table discussion.
So how did that go?
Nobody brought any rocks and threw them at me, so we did pretty good. Now, actually, I was pleasantly surprised because we had separate rooms for the roundtable discussions. I've done them in past history where we had 6 or 8 people, and the 2 discussions I did, we were running 50, 60 people.
Wow, Mike.
And
did you sign any autographs, sign any babies' heads and stuff because of the podcast?
No, there was an old bald guy signed his head.
He was looking for his parking validation.
Yeah.
So they went well. You had a good turnout.
Had a good turnout.
A lot of good people to talk to.
Good people, and was getting some really good input. Mm-hmm. Had a couple people that really jumped in on some of the discussions hard, and trying to get people to get involved, because you want everybody talking, and you're just kind of keep doing what you try to do with me, trying to keep it on track. So we ran rabbit trails all over the place.
Well, we're going to dive into this rabbit trail and talking terminology. This is a segment of the show where if you hear some barn talk, some barn speak, some fire chitter chatter at the barn, and they bring up a topic or a word that you're not familiar with, we kind of decipher those words and what they mean. If you hear them in normal, everyday speak around your equine and equine people. And this week we're going to talk about tendinopathy. So, Mike, when we say tendinopathy, what are we actually talking about? I think about right away like tennis elbow.
Right. And the discussion was revolving around the deep flexor tendon in particular.
Of a horse, not my tennis elbow.
Of your tennis elbow. Yeah, it's the opathy of the tendon. No, we're talking about tendons that have been abused. They got micro tears. They've got, they've been beat up. They're damaged. They're hurting. So, when we got an inflamed tendon, a bow, down in the coffin joint of the deep flexor, you can get some damage in this area, and that is prone to tears. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with it.
So, the definition I have in my handy dandy cheat sheet is any condition that affects the tendon, making it painful to use and reduce its function, is tendinopathy. So, if I've got a bad tendon in my foot, like plantar fasciitis, well, that's a muscle, but still, it's a tendon in itself. And it goes bad, and I keep walking on it, then I'm going to have, bruised and messed up feet for a while. Right. So that's tendinopathy.
Right.
And how is this, without, the, what am I looking for? The smaller version of how to prevent it and how to what are we looking for when it happens? Or is that we're going to talk about that next segment?
Well, yeah, pretty much. How to prevent it is, don't beat it up. And
when you say beat it up, literally, if the horse shows any signs of it, rest days or calm days, or do you soak it in like Epsom salts?
They need some down days for things to repair between work, overwork, over damage. Some of that has to do with the ground force mechanics, which that's where a farrier comes in a large way. If you've got a really low palmar angle and a toe that's shot way out the front, it's a big long lever arm working against that deep flexor tendon, and can we create enough force to inflame it? Can
X-rays or venograms show that what's wrong with the horse, and then you take the X-ray or whatever? Will that show up on a
venogram is not going to show the deep flexor or the tendon damage so much. That would go into ultrasounds. But I'll tell you, sometimes when you're taking some X-rays, you can depending on the units, some of these modern units, you can kind of see the tendon. If you got any areas that have started to calcify in the tendon, just from prolonged damage, sometimes you'll get some calcium building up in those areas. That will show in an X-ray. But normally, when you're looking at the tendon's ligaments, you're going to go to an ultrasound and ultrasound the area. And
is that a portable machine, or is that
that is a portable machine? They are at this point. They're very portable. I've had people show me ultrasound pictures, and I'm like, I don't look at those pictures. So to me, it's kind of like looking at that what Rorschach's ink blot test sometimes.
Right.
You're like, see right there. I'm like, that's kind of interesting looking. What is it? But and it's not my job to interpret it. It's up to the veterinarian.
So that would be more of a vet look at
it,
rather
than diagnostics. And then at that point, okay, why have we got tendon damage? Maybe we shoot some lateral shots. Shoot for what your PAs looks like, what joint alignment looks like. From front to back, your DPs, whatever you need. And are we doing something with bone column alignment that is torquing against that tendon so much? And then if so, from my end, what do we do to take the pressure off, provide support if need be, whatever need to be to give the tendon a break to heal up? And then also, what do we do mechanically to provide a situation where we're putting less pressure on the tendon so that we can get the horse back to a reasonable level of work and not creating more damage?
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break and come right back, and we're going to talk about the way the tendon connects to the muscle bone and the breakdown of collagen proteins that forms in the tendon when we're talking about tendinopathy. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I've got a rib that's bad back here, so I can't take a deep breath enough to cough.
Can I visit the funnel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All righty.
I just realized that I read the continuation of part 2, but anyways.
I was kind of wondering on that one. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. We'll make it up. They're not paying attention.
Nah. No, they don't. They wouldn't pay me any attention.
No,
I certainly wouldn't pay you any attention.
No. Who are you again? Here we go.
What country was in when I was out in
Guam.
Guam?
You ready?
Right.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you have a physical question for Mike Stine, I say physical question. You don't want to go on the air. I understand a lot of people get a little shy and stuff. That's okay. You can physically write him an email, and it comes right to his inbox, and he'll read it on the very next podcast, or he'll just read it and answer your question right there. So if you want to do that, the way you do that to get a hold of him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contacts. Fill out that little form there, and make sure you put a physical address in there, and we'll send you out some magnets, some stickers, and some keychains and stuff right to your very own front doorstep, just for being part of the show and just a way of saying thank you. And over to my far hand side, my very own yes man is Mike Stine. How are you?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Very good. So we're going to continue to talk about tendinopathy, about the collagen protein forms and tendons, but we're also going to talk about the deep digital flexor tendon injuries. And for this, Mike has a model, 3D printed model that he bought and he painted himself, or his grandson painted himself, or whatever.
It's galloping.
I see that. Looks good on film.
Right.
And so now's a great chance to go over to YouTube, and you can see this in real time as we're talking about it here on the air. So I'm going to switch over to camera 8 here so it gets a little bit bigger picture for everyone to see, and you can see this. So what are we looking at here, Mike?
Okay. You got the superficial flexor tendon. This would be the deep digital flexor, and it comes up behind the knee. There's a check ligament off of it just below the knee, the distal check ligament, and it connects to the flexor muscle and runs down through there, goes under the superficial flexor, between your sesamoids, and when it comes out, the superficial flexor bifurcates or splits, and the deep flexor, you can see half of it right there, comes down to the middle and connects into the bottom of the coffin bone. It's similar,
That's the brown one that you
the
painted.
brown one, yes. That I'm putting all my gobbing my hands all in the way. Yes.
Okay.
That one. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this in particular has been, whether it's long toe, low heel, puts a lot of stress in that area. If you put enough stress, you can start separating on your connector points. If you got in this area, that is a bit of an aggravation. You have more leeway the higher the inflammation is. If you have a swollen up higher, as far as what you can do, as far as working with the hoof alignment angle to relieve some of the pressure. Sometimes if a horse is at rest, that's where you might use an egg bar. I'm not a big fan of using an egg bar shoe for a working horse, because especially with the new surfaces, it's got so much grab. But you can do some things with forging and build a shoe out, because that big hoop around the back, when it hits that ground, is like pulling a plow through the ground, and it stops the bone column too fast. But sometimes for healing, just to support the bone column, sometimes that's used. I've done that before. And sometimes elevating, stabilizing the leg to where you're not putting, when the horse is maybe stall rest and healing, to keep some of the down pressure off of the tendon and just support the bone column a little better. And then, when you're bringing it back to work, the shoeing strategy changes. You're definitely looking at our breakovers, the lever point out here is working against a great big long pro bar, pry bar, crowbar, whatever it is. Or we're working it back to where, the it takes less pressure off that tendon. But on the other end, we've got to have it at a point where the horse can be stable enough to walk. We don't want him trying to fall on his nose because we took everything out from under him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Does that make any sense? Just say yes.
Yes.
So we don't want him. You know, we want him where he can be stable enough to do his job. And then when you start looking at like Doc Reddens and Sammys and all these guys, some of these Rockefort mats, sometimes some of those will work very well with a tendon damage because they're creating a rolling action. You're eliminating a lot of torque in the movement pattern. But that's a deal where you need to be well educated if you're going to go down that road. It's not something you just try on your own. You know, years of messing with it, there is definitely a learning curve. So that would be some things I would look at on working at a horse that has a tendon damage problem. And also with the veterinarian being involved, there are so many different deals they've got out there. Some of these regenerative deals they are doing work really well. Stem cell was done. I don't hear as much about stem cells as some of the regenerative deals have come out. Some of them will get injected. Some of them, like pulse unit. I own a pulse, a PEMF unit, and anything to stir up healing, circulation, and healing in the area.
Now, if I've got ligament damage, like on my foot, my ankle, my knee, whatever like that, there's an ointment that I can put on there, like Voltaren or Valsaren or whatever it is. Is there ligament and stuff that you can put on a horse instead of going through like extremes and doing the egg bar and doing the shoe and all that stuff? Is there like a cream, a topical cream that you can put on there to help a horse to kind of go, okay, let's try this first?
There are topical creams out there. Everybody's got a different approach. If you just put the topical cream on there and you're not dealing, if you got some bad mechanics creating the situation, you don't deal with that, you can easily get, if you mask it too much, create more damage. What have we done? So my suggestion is look at the mechanics of the situation. Some of these deals, if you're just putting a Band-Aid on it and you keep torquing against it, it can become a major problem.
Could snap.
Could snap, yes. And as far as it's snapping and letting go, this, as far as if you got damage in this area, that's the area where it could much more easily get a tear.
Now, if it does tear, surgery or wait and see.
I think that
to repair
probably for the most time it's a whole lot of hurry up and wait. I don't think that. As far as any successful surgeries to repair the tendon, I'm not real aware of that. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. I'm just not aware of that.
I would think if it would tear, now you've got that void there, and if it reconstructs itself and fixes itself,
it's going to try to, yes.
And then you're going to have that scar,
right? And the scar's never going to be the same.
And you're not going to get the same flex as before.
No.
Okay. So the main goal is not to have a tear.
Calcifying in. The main goal is let's don't tear it up and try and see. But that's one of those deals where the vet and farrier, you need a good vet farrier team working together on that flexor tendon and deciding where you want to go. And everybody's got to make their own choices on how to handle it. I mean, because of what I do, I would definitely address mechanics of the situation. There are some topicals that are very similar to what you were just showing us.
Do you have any trainers or riders that actually rely on you alone because of their lack of expertise or lack of knowledge as far as what to look for in horses' feet? And you know what I'm saying? Like I can train. Let's say I'm a Joe trainer, and I train all the horses to do all this stuff, with riders on top of it. But I don't know what tendonitis or whatever looks like on the feet. Am I relying on you? Do you have anyone that relies on you 100% to tell them what's wrong with the horse's feet?
No.
So when I get to my trainer level,
well,
I should know.
I hope you know something. Maybe.
I'm just thinking worst case scenario. That's
worst case scenario. It is a team. It's not just me.
Okay.
It is always a team. For a horse to be successful, it's always a team. To get a horse out of trouble, it's always a team.
That's kind of where I was going with.
Yeah,
and you fell right for my trap, Mike.
Oh, I'm in it. But no, that's why there are vets that I work well with. There are trainers that I work well with. The ones that I don't work well with, as far as that goes, I'm probably not employed by them. But you think about this: the flexor tendon itself and the pressure on the flexor tendon itself. And we were talking about the whole saddling thing, and we lock up the shoulders. And so if the shoulders can't move and absorb impact like they should, lower legs taking the impact. That loads the flexor tendon. So that is something else. I mean, all that needs to be thought about. And which, if the horse can't move freely, we've got impact problems. That involves your saddle fitter. That involves your body worker. That involves your veterinarian and myself very much. And your trainer's routine and the whole bit.
And what's the thing you always say? Keep asking the question why.
Right, exactly.
All right, guys, stick around when we come back. One more little segment. We'll let you get back to playing with your ponies. You'll listen to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I was watching Gladiator 2 yesterday. Have you seen the Gladiator movies? Yeah, you're not missing anything. But one of the things that stuck out, because this is all set in Rome, like the Roman era and all that, they were jumping on the horses, and I noticed all the horses' saddles had horns on them.
Right.
But you always think of a saddle with a horn on it as a quote-unquote Western saddle.
Right.
Did they have horns on horses in Roman times?
Back when I lived in Rome.
Back when I was a wee little man.
Yes. Yes. I don't know. I'm sure it was possible.
I don't know if that was like history or historically correct on the movie. I just noticed that.
Well, we all know that movies are always 100% historically correct.
Yeah, that's my where I get all my education from.
That's right.
All right, what did we learn? Wrap up the show?
Yes.
Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, if you'd like this podcast to perform at your clinic, your location, your bar mitzvah, your garage sale, even if you just got your weekly neighborhood watch meeting, we can do that as well. Just give us a call or hit us up over at the equinedynamics.com. What?
I do think our name comes up a lot at Neighborhood Watch Committee.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
Go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill out that little form, and we'll pencil you in. We're getting into springtime here in the next 30 days or so, and we are slowly wrapping up season 11. Get ready to sign up for season 12, so make sure you stay on board for that as well. And over to my far hand side, my very own neighborhood watchman is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing all right. So what did we learn today, Mike?
What did we learn today?
We learned that you figured out that Kansas City was not in Guam. It's in Missouri.
Is it?
You tell me.
It was cold. I know that.
Okay. And you lost your driver's license.
Right.
And with 50 million questions and stuff, they figured that you were not a threat to our society.
No, I've been bomb sniffed.
And you, after over 40 years of you doing shoeing and everything, all the new stuff and everything, and is it going to be a lost art form with the new stuff and everything that are coming out? So, Mike, what else did you learn from the Equine or the International Hoof Care Summit?
Well, there were a lot of good talks. That is something that, for what's on the table as far as lectures, it's sad that we don't get a lot more participants there. There are people from around the world there. I met friends from multiple countries, from Australia, from England, from Norway, from actually Malaysia. One of the farriers that worked with us at the World Equestrian Games from Malaysia was there. And there's a great learning opportunity, and people should not pass it up. And even horse owners can come to this. And this is you want to see the game changers in this industry. That's where they are. That's where it all comes out. So you're missing a great opportunity there.
And did they sign up for where is it going to be next year, or when is it going to be this time? Is it the same time every year this year, I guess? Or
it's same time every year.
Okay.
I don't know if the venue is going to change or not, but it may be where it is. I've not heard that. Jeff will be coming out with that if they hadn't already. It's really easy for things to go. May not know.
And the way you can keep on top of that is to make sure you sign up for the American Farriers Journal. Get your subscription in as well. And also, talking terminology, we're talking about tendinopathy, and what does it mean and what does it do?
Well, inflammation, damage to the tendon, anything to create a situation where the tendon is aggravated. And we need to deal with that before it becomes a real problem. Hopefully it's just a warning light going off. Kind of like a check engine light, right?
Yes. So my sheets here says the tendon connects the muscle to the bone. Tendonitis or inflammation of the tendon tissues. Tendinopathy can also caused by a breakdown of collagen protein and forms in the tendon. So that's what you need to look for when you're dealing with tendinopathy.
Right.
And also discussion of deep digital
digital flexor tendon.
There you go.
Damage.
My cold medicine's kicking in. So there you go. And what do we mean when we're talking about that? And why do you have to carefully shoe for these horses?
Well, we've got to provide support. We've got to take the pressure off the tendon to allow the inflammation to settle down and give it a chance to heal, and then slowly bring them back to work. And it takes a little while for that to settle down. It takes a little while for it to heal up. And, that's one of those deals. We need to get the vet and farrier involved immediately and move forward from there, and then decide where we're going, what the course of action what route it will take.
All right, guys. Make sure you follow us over on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. He always posts a bunch of different articles up there, furthering your education for the equine world. Did you take any pictures at the Hoof Care Summit?
Not a lot, no.
No, well, whatever pictures he did take, he'll post them up there as well. And also, make sure you follow him over on YouTube. For every podcast that we do, that he has a video as well, and you can see all the stuff that goes on here in the studio. And the full-length podcast is available over there as well. So make sure you give him a subscribe over there. And if you'd like to join the podcast, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says join the podcast, and fill out that little form there, and we'll send you out some free swag here from the show. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
thank you. Have a good day with your ponies, and next year, hope to see you at the Hoof Care Summit.
My name is Travis, and see you next week.
Hi, Lucky.
Good night, Ned.
Hi, Dusty.
Good night, Ned.
Good night, Ned.